Hello and welcome to my training Zoom room. Today we're playing with Microsoft Word Mail Merge. This is a really awesome tool allowing us to be able to make form letters or mailing labels without having to type in every single address every single time. We are going to make sure we have our files. Here we go, English words. Right, this is the website where the handouts are. I put the link in the chat window. If you're joining me later or you're watching the video, right, this is where we're going to go. And let's go see that website. So this is training.health.ufl.edu Zoom/Word, right? And way at the bottom are the mail merge files, right? So mail merge 1, got the handout, but the handout's also included in these class files. So I'm going to download these as well. So the same website, the /Word, coming into the class files. And I'm going to open mine. Yours might pop up in the corner on the bottom telling you to open. We're going to open the files. Okay. So when you open up this zipped file, we should see this Word Mail Merge folder. I'm going to open it. There's the PDF for the handout. And here's the exercise files. Let's open the exercise files. This is a folder that I'm going to need to return to again and again and again. So actually, let me come up a level. Let me go back. Here, these exercise files, I'm going to put them on my desktop. So I'm going to drag this Word exercise files into the desktop link over here. If you need to, scroll up so the side pane shows you your desktop. I'm going to drag exercise files onto desktop, and it will tell me that little box as I'm copying it. And when I come to the desktop and I see my exercise files, they should be here. That's my goal. Anybody need help with that? And again, I'm coming to the Zoom/Word. Downloaded the class files. And in the folder that opened up, I dragged exercise files to my desktop.
There's no file opening up for me. Unless I'm like totally missing it. It's not.
So yeah, don't double click on the actual files.
Right. I can't, when I hit class files, nothing's popping up for me.
The exercise files?
Yeah.
Nothing's in there?
Well, on the website, I went to Mail Merge 1. I got the handout, but when I click on the class files, nothing pops up.
Not even down in the bottom corner? Okay. So open up your folder, or, you know, if you want to minimize it, open up one of these, look in your downloads. Sometimes it just throws them straight into the download without asking any questions.
Okay. It's all right. Keep going.
Okay. So if it's there again in downloads, same thing, just trying to get these exercise files onto the desktop.
Okay, I found it.
Awesome. And once they're on your desktop, I'm going to open them up so I can see the 4 files that are there. And I'm going to right click on the word Quick Access, if you have it, and I'm going to pin it to my Quick Access. What that's going to do is it'll put exercise files here on the side so that as we come into this folder over and over and over again today, I could just click on it and be able to see the files that we need. Okay. Later on, if you decide you want to take it off, you would right click and remove it. Okay. Or push the little push pin next to it to take it back out. Okay. Groovy. However you get there, if you have the files with me, I do want to make sure they are out of the zip. So if anything else, just drag them to the desktop. I'm going to use the Excel file the most often. All right. When we work with a mail merge, there are 3 basic things that are going to happen. Okay. We have the data source, which has the list of all of our names and addresses being repeated over and over and over and over again. We have the letter or the main document, the primary document that we're going to try to create over and over and over again. And then we have the final merge when they come together. So let me open the PDF here. So this is the idea, right? I'm starting with just the idea of a form letter. I have a letter, you owe me money, you dirty bum. Okay. And I have an Excel worksheet full of names and addresses that I need to write to people over and over and over again. Okay. So I could write the letter one time, change the name and address, change the name and address, change the name and address. Or I can put all the names and addresses in my Excel worksheet. And when I merge them, I get one letter per person all the way down. Okay. That's the concept of a mail merge. So we need to have a data source and we create the main document and we merge them together. So I want to look at the data sources that I provided you first. Now, I know not everybody has Microsoft Access on their computers. So if you cannot get into the Access customers, if it doesn't have the symbol on it, don't worry about it. But I am going to open it up and show it for those of us who do have it. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Okay. So inside this Access file, I have a table of customers. And I see the title at the top and the data underneath. And I have these two queries, which are subsets of the table. And there's ones of just the Gainesville customers and the people who are not in Gainesville. That's it. So just split the data to these three possible data sources, my names and addresses that I could pull into whatever I'm working on. I'm going to exit out of Access. Again, it's okay if you could not open that file. The next one I'm going to look at is the Word customers. Now, I saw online this week someone said that you can't pull from a Word file in one of the little classes whenever I was refreshing myself. That's not true. I can pull from a Word file into my mail merge as a data source. The thing is, it needs to be in a table structure. It needs to have nothing else in here. So the very first line, notice again, is my title, name, address, city, state, zip. So that's got to be the first row of your file. Okay. Let me exit out of that. And the Excel customers is the one we're going to use the most often. When I open up my Excel customers, I have this data set. Okay. So this one, it's not going to work. Well, it will, but what's going to happen is I'll have a column called Big City Store. Then this will be F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, F7, F8, because it's looking for that first row to have titles. And even if you tell it doesn't have titles, right, this is, it would still become then just F1, F2, F3, F4. This is the biggest hiccup people have in using an Excel file. When they open up Microsoft Excel, there's a title at the top, okay? So this needs to go. The easiest thing to do here is to delete these three rows, all right? We could set a named range. We could try to force our way through. This is what I highly recommend. If this is a file someone else is using, right, you guys need to discuss it. We need to make sure that this, if it has to be printed, can be put into the header and footer, right? But here in the document, the file itself, it needs to be removed. So if you're playing along with me, I need you to open up the Excel customer file, and we need to delete these first three rows. And so I'm just going to select them, right click, and delete. I don't mean delete on the keyboard. I need to physically pull that up so that there are no more data in that first three rows, okay? So that row one becomes account number, last name, first name, address, city, state, and zip. If you have to do them one at a time, that's okay. Right click, delete the entire row. That's what I need from here. Again, you can select, delete entire row. Okay, I'm going to save this. Now, if you had a hard time getting this out of the zip file and you want to just save this to your desktop, that's fine as well. You can push F12 at the top of the keyboard or go File, Save, Save As, and you could save this someplace where you're going to be able to get to it. This is our Excel customers. All right, we're making a change by taking out the first couple rows, and then you could save over where it was, or if you need to, you can save it to your desktop, somewhere easy to get to. Okay. And I'm going to exit out. So I did save it. So far, so good, I hope. All right. Now that I've got my files, right, my data sources, all three of them, be it Access or Excel or Word, the very first line are my titles. That's what you want to aim for. That's what you want to aim for here. Now I have my data sources. I just need to go and create my main document. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the wizard the first time through, because Microsoft Word, actually Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, when you go through a wizard, it's trying to hold your hand and take you through step by step and where you might want to go. So we'll go through the wizard the first time, and then the rest of them we'll build ourselves. And the packet has both. Okay, coming into Microsoft Word. So start Word, or if you've got a shortcut on your desktop, that works. Going into Microsoft Word, making a blank document. Okay, so this is going to be my form letter that I'm going to create. And I'm going to do something along the lines of, you owe me money, please pay me now, because that's what my example shows. So we're going to do a mailing. Coming to the Mailings tab, and I'm going to tell it here to start a mail merge. All right, again, I have a couple of different options, but we're going to focus just on the letters to start. So I'm doing form letter, but I'm going to use the wizard instead. So instead of trying to work this out myself, I'm using the step-by-step wizard, which I recommend if you're not super comfortable with this tool. Until you get more comfortable with it, go ahead and use the wizard. Let me stretch this out a bit. Okay. So when I open my wizard, again, this is in a new Word document, mailing, start mail merge, step-by-step wizard. It gives you this pane on the right-hand side. That's pane as in window pane, not pain in your neck, right? Nice and neat. And it says, okay, well, what are we doing? So I have letters, emails, which we'll deal with next time, envelopes, labels, and directories. So coming back here to my PDF, letters, just like I talked about, you owe me money, making one letter per person all the way through. Labels, right, setting it up so that I can create one label and have it create sheets and sheets of every single person in that data set. Envelopes, same idea, making one envelope per person, just like one letter per person. And then directories allow me to be able to take a block of data and just keep repeating it on the same sheet. So I could make a telephone directory or a lookup directory for a notebook without having to look at it in the raw Excel view or having to rearrange it myself. We set up one, and when we merge it, it does it over and over and over again. So we are starting with just doing letters. All right. I'm going to click on the next start document. Okay, down to the very bottom of the pane, starting document. Come on. So we get to decide, are you going to use this file, or do you have one that's saved that you want to open up, or do you want to start with a template that's already formatted? We're going to use the current document. Typically, if I'm going to use a file I would open it first before I start my mailings. Same with, I would create the template first and then tell it I wanted to do a mail merge. So we're using this current document. Next step. This is where is our recipients? Who is going to get this letter? Where is our data? And I could pull from Outlook. If you're keeping track of the names and addresses of everyone you need to talk to in Outlook, you could pull that data in here. Most of us don't do that. Maybe if you have a small business or home, you might decide to do something like that. But we're going to use the existing list. I don't recommend typing in your own. So I'm using existing list. I'm going to browse for it. Okay, and here in this window, every single time it's going to come into the My Data Sources. So I need to go find the files that I saved on the desktop. So if you were able to get your exercise files on this list, if not, go to the desktop, right, find that Microsoft Excel customers that I want to play with, my Excel customers. Okay, there's only one worksheet in that workbook, which is great. I'm going to click OK. And there they are. Those are all the people that I need to send this letter to. So instead of typing in 70 different letters, I'm able to come in and just say all these people need to receive the email or the letter. Okay. Now what? Well, notice over here, right? This is our select recipients. Here it is, sheet 1 from excelcustomers.xlsx. Perfect. So then we're ready for the next step. So at the bottom of the window, we click on next to write our letter. And this is just that. This is where we start to write our letter. So I'm going to put in today's date, December. Once you hit the 4th letter, you should see that little tooltip guy pop up. And if you press enter, it'll put in the whole thing. Give me a space. There I see the 7/20/20. I'm going to enter. And then I'll enter. Now I'm going to put in the name and address of who is supposed to receive this. So this is where I'm going to put in their name, their address, that sort of thing. And down here, I'm going to put in my dear so-and-so. And I'm going to say, you owe me money. I love Pandora. You don't have to put my name. All right. That's the idea, right? This is a letter that I want to send to all those people that I just pulled in from my data source. So their name and address here, their dear so-and-so. Okay. So instead of typing in this name and address, let me back this out. I'm going to make sure I'm on the line of where I want the address to go. When I first learned to use Word long time ago, we had to put in each field. I had to say first name, space, last name, enter, address to, enter, city, comma, all of that stuff. But most of the time, this tool is used for letters and labels, right? And so that first, last address, city, state, zip, first, last address, city, state, zip, consistent throughout over and over and over again. So at one point, Microsoft Word finally put in this address block. Okay, so here on my side pane, I'm going to click on address block, and I'm able to see first, last address, city, state, zip, first, last address, city, state, zip, one at a time for each of my objects. Okay. This first little box says, how do you want the name to appear? Right, and I wanted it just as it has, first and last name. Now, sometimes the state pulls in and sometimes it doesn't, depending on how it's spelled in the Excel file. So let me come into the match fields. And in here, we get to see what Microsoft Word is expecting, and over here of what we've actually called it. So I've got my first name, right? I've got my last name. So had I accidentally called it just name, right, I would be able to come in here and make sure that they were in the right order. Right? If I abbreviate state to just ST, it might not match here. So we want to make sure, and there's all these other options if we want them, but I've got my first name, last name, address, city, state, and zip, and that's okay. That was here through the match field. So when you build your own, if it doesn't look like this, right, you've got your match fields to play with. It's so pretty. I'm going to click OK. And it just gives me this mysterious address block, but it's going to give us first, last address, city, state, zip. I have faith. Now here with the dear so-and-so, if I wanted to say dear Ann, dear Bob, dear Sally, okay, I could put in dear and then use their first name. But what if somebody was missing a name? What if I had, I wouldn't, you know, and I've seen this in dear space, comma, right, without the name in there. I don't want that to happen. So I'm erasing my line for the dear so-and-so. And again, this is something that's common enough that we have a greeting line here on the side. So if I open my greeting line, I see dear and then their full name. I'm going to change this to be a little more casual. And here I've got first name and nickname. If you don't have a nickname column, that's okay. It'll revert to the first name. So I'm going to do dear Josh. Here, the colon I was taught was formal, the comma was informal. Since I'm using the first name, I'm happy with comma. If you want to put in your own, say none, and then you could type in. Now, if anybody is missing a first name, instead of getting dear, well, I get to decide, well, what is it going to be instead? And so here I get dear sir or madam, or to whom it may concern, right? Whichever one you feel more comfortable with, I'm going to whom it may concern. And again, I've got my preview down here where I can go through and see how their names are going to look. When I click OK, I get greeting line, okay? And then I have you owe me money. And I think it would be nice to see how much they owed me. I'd like to be able to say, you owe me $75. You owe me $132. I want to see how much they owe me. So I'm going to take out this word money. You owe me. Now this one's not common, right? Having an address, having the greeting line, those are common for every letter. But the things that you put inside, those are customizations that you're going to do. And that's more items. So here in that side pane, I'm coming into more items. And in here is my balance. And when I insert, I get, you owe me balance. All right, the little field code there. Let me close this window. And that's it. I'm happy with that. Today's date, who it's going to, dear so-and-so, you owe me this, love Pandora. All right. So if I'm done with my letter, I'm done with this step, writing my letter. I'm going to go to the next step to preview it and see how it looks. Couple things bothering me. I'm not happy with the spacing, and I need to format that amount. Okay, so I'm going to select all, Control A or drag through. On the Home tab, I'm going to set this up to have no spacing. Do you see it? On the Home tab, in your styles, I'm going with no spacing. And then if you need to, put your enters back in where you want them. And I'm going to put a little $sign in front of my amount, whatever yours is. It just depends on which person you're looking at. And I can move through the recipients here in the side pane to be able to see how it's going to look as I move through. What do you think? Okay, so that spacing thing again, when I selected all of it, I came home, and the second style is called no spacing. All right, so this is great. So I previewed it, I've moved through, I made sure that it looked good, I've set the format, so I'm happy with it. Let's go to the next step to complete the merge. All right, and I have two options. I could send it straight to the printer, or I can edit the individual ones. Okay, and I don't recommend sending it to the printer. You never know when a jam's going to happen. So we're editing the individual letters. Now, before I do this, I want you to see I'm on page 1 of 1. And up here in the ribbon, I've got document 1. That's the title. I'm going to edit the individual letters. I'm doing all of them. And when I click OK, look at the title bar. I'm no longer in document. I'm now in letters. And look at the bottom corner. Instead of page 1 of 1, I'm on 1 of 76. Let me maximize this. From the View tab, I can do multiple pages. And as I scroll through, I see one letter for each person. And it says their name, their address, the amount that they owe me. And I could come through and customize these. And let's say I don't like Carly, and I can just change this to be no love for that one, but everybody else gets a love. Right? You get to decide. Okay, now again, this says the multiple pages, and it says letters at the top. I'm going to exit Word completely. Exiting Word, not saving. Exiting Word, not saving. Coming all the way back out to my desktop. And I'm going to start again. From the Start menu, I'm opening Word. So beginning again. Blank document. Okay. This time I'm going to build my letter without the wizard. All right. I'm going to start by changing my view to be 100%. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to come to my mailings. All right, so I zoomed in a little bit, coming to my mailings. By default, it's going to assume you're doing a form letter, but if it makes you feel better, we can come into the Start Mail Merge and choose Letters. Okay. Now, with the wizard, it tells me what the next step is going to be and what the next step is going to be. And the first step was, what kind of thing are you doing? And we just did that. We chose form letters. The second one was, do you need to open the file that you're going to use? And no, we're assuming it's going to be this one. So if I had it written already, I'd want to pull it in here. Now what? Well, I want you to see up here, this first one that has nothing to do with mail merge, starting the mail merge here. I can't do anything else until I select my recipients, right? So I can't add in an address block or a greeting line. I have to select my recipients first. So select recipients, use an existing list, go back to your desktop and find that exercise file for Excel customers. There is my sheet 1, and okay. Now the wizard did a nice thing. Once I chose it, it popped up a window showing me the customers that I was using. This didn't, but what it did do was it lit up all the buttons along here. So the next button over is to edit the recipient list. So this gives me a chance to make sure that I've got the data set that I wanted. Now, again, I had to delete those first 3 rows. So if yours don't have, you know, if it says F2, F3, F4, you need to go back to Excel and delete the title rows. This needs to be the way that I want it to look. All right, my first line is Annie Adams, last first address. Okay, so now I've got my data. So what was the next? Well, let's to write our letter. So again, let's see, December 7th, 2020. And then I needed my address block. And so here is my address block. Same setup as before. If these don't look right, you should go into the match fields. This looks good to me. So I'm going to click OK. Enter, enter. Next was our greeting line. So here's my greeting line. Dear, and I'm going to make it more casual, Joshua, Joshua, to whom it may concern. Okay. Did that come in with a comma? You know what? Let's check. Because I don't have to wait to the next step. At any point, I can preview the results. So I can work with the live data as I go through. And then I can just, see that the comma's already there. So I'm ready to just move on. And I can keep going back and forth here between editing my recipient list, playing with my fields, moving through the next records to make sure it looks good. Okay. So it's dear so-and-so, you owe me, and I'm going to come up. Well, there's no more items up here. And here it's called Insert Merge Fields. Now you can open this little window if you click on the picture and choose your option, or you can click on the word Insert Merge Field to open the menu and be able to choose from here. I'm a big fan of the drop-down list, being able to just grab and go, aside from opening a window, choosing and hitting OK. So you owe me balance. Since my preview is on, I see that I'm missing my $sign right away. Okay. What do you think? Now, if I only needed to print a letter to Edgar, I could keep moving through till I find him. I could do find Edgar and it will take me straight to his letter, and I could print just that one if that's what I wanted. So as I come through, I do have the ability to search and get just to the one record to make sure it's coming out okay. So if you did send it all to the printer and Edgar's got jammed and looks funny, we could reprint just that one letter if we wanted to. But of course, once I've got all of this set up, I want to print all of them. So I need to, well, what's the next thing? I started my merge. I wrote and I chose my special fields to go inside. I previewed it so I could be able to see. Just as a word of caution, if this ever looks funny after you've updated something, turn the preview off and then back on. That'll usually update things for you. And then I'm going to finish. And I'm going to edit the individual documents. I want all of it, okay. And again, I should get 76 when it catches up with me, 76 records, and I'm in letters. I really should have fixed it so it was all single spaced. So I could select all and try to set up that no spacing. But if you see a modification that you want to make, you probably should do it back in the original. Now, sometimes it's easy to get confused. Am I in the original or am I in the final merge? So again, I keep pointing out the fact that this is now letters. The other clue is if I go into mailings, everything's grayed out. Right? This is my final result. This is why there's so many pages. It's got a different title and I can't do any of my mailings. So I'm going to close the letters and not save. I'm going to fix my formatting back in my document to be no spacing. If you want, you can bold something. Okay, we could leave enough space for the actual physically sign if we wanted to. Okay. And when I'm ready, because this is only going to print out one of them, when I'm ready, we go back to mailings. We finish and merge. We edit the individual documents. And when I do all of them, I now have the spacing fixed on every single one of these. Control page down goes to the next page, the next page, the next page. Woohoo. All right. I'm going to close the letters, the one that has the multiple documents, and I'm not going to save. I am going to save this one. All right. When I exit out, yes, I am saving. And I'm again going to put it on the desktop or with my exercise files. And I'm just going to call it letter. Letter to merge. Okay. And I've exited out all the way. Hopefully on your desktop or in your exercise folder, you now have this letter to merge. When I open it up, I get this message, and it's a little scary the first couple of times you see it because it's like, oh, wait, what? Because it says select star from sheet 1, and this is an SQL, structured query language or standard query language that's built in. And you don't have to know that. You can just say, it's pulling from sheet 1, yes, and it opens up just fine, as long as your file still exists. Let me exit back out. 5, 4, 3, 2. If, I'm going to open it up again. When you click yes, you start getting a whole bunch of error messages, and there's like 4 or 5 of them until you get to where you want to go. I recommend opening this up and just saying no. Okay. The field boxes are still here. See, when I click in the address or the, all right, but when I go to mailings, there's no options here. So this is a letter and it's set up. It just doesn't have the data that it needs yet. So I can come in and select my recipients, and I could pull from an existing list. So I did that sort of quickly, so I'm going to do it again. Let me exit back out. I'll take a breath. Take me back into the letter that you created, if you still have one. I'm going to say no. so that when I come to my mailings, I see I can't do anything because I've removed it. Let's tell it to select the recipients. I'm going to use an existing list. I'm going to look on the desktop or in those exercise files for that Excel customers. All of my data should be there on sheet 1. And it pops to, okay. So when I come into my preview results, I should be able to see everybody. Again, if it looks funny, turn the preview on and off, and then you can move through the records. So what if now I have this mail merge and it turns out it's the next year, right? I sent all of these letters out for December 2019. Now I need to do it for December 2020. I have to change my data source. So same letter, right? New date, new data. So I can come up here to my select recipients and just choose a different data source. I'm going to say use an existing list. And in my exercise files, I'm going to come into that access customers instead. Again, if your computer doesn't have access on it, feel free just to watch for a moment. I'm going to use my access customers. And when I open, when we pulled from Microsoft Excel, it said, well, which worksheet do you want? When I pull from Access, it says, do you want a table or a query? And it shows me a list of all of them. If you have a long list, right, something to pay attention to. And it might help to be able to sort the created values, okay? What I want are all of my customers. So I would choose customers and say, okay. And now, as long as all of the fields were the same, state was called state, zip was called zip code, then it should fall right into place for you. If it doesn't, you can always go into the match fields, right? And we could be able to say, notice I did that here from the ribbon, not in the boxes itself, and you could be able to line things up. So if your preview doesn't look right when you turn it on and off, if you're missing something, go into the match fields to line it up. Okay. If I know that I want to remove the data source, if I can't find it, if it keeps coming up with that select statement, and I keep forgetting to save it after I hit no, you can always come into the Start Mail Merge and tell it to be a normal Word document. And what that will do is it will strip the recipient list from it. Right? Again, you're still going to have fields here, right, until you reattach it to something, but I can open it up, make a bunch of changes, say, I'm still collecting that data. Let me just remove it from the original so I don't accidentally send it to the last year's people, and it will come through just fine. Awesome. Questions? Okay. Let's go make some mailing labels. I'm going to exit Word completely. I didn't bother to save anything. You can if you want to. I'm not coming back to that. Coming back into Word. I am using Office 19 today, but this has behaved in every version since 13 the same, since 10. Coming back into a blank document. What I want now are mailing labels. Okay, we're going to make mailing labels. So for the 76 people that I just printed out letters for, we're now setting up labels. When I come to mailings, it is very tempting to push this labels button because I'm making labels, right? Go ahead and push it for me just to see. What this is going to do is it's going to set it up to make one label. And so it could be an entire sheet of labels. For example, I could put my return address label here, or I could do a label for this book was borrowed from Pandora Cowart, right? And be able to put that sticker inside each of the books that I have. So it calls it address, but right, labels can be name tags, they could be tent cards, they could be holiday cards, they could be all sorts of things, anything that's in an Avery box, right? This is just to make one label, a single label, or a whole sheet of the same value over and over and over again. So that's not what I want. What I want is to merge, right? I want to be able to take multiple people and make all of them show up at once. So instead of putting each address into each of the cells, that it's going to set it up for me. So in my mailings, I'm starting my mail merge, Again, you could use the wizard, but I'm just going to choose labels from here. Whether you choose it from the wizard or from the ribbon, it will come up and say, well, what's the product that you want? I'm going to go with Avery. So here, instead of Microsoft, I'm looking for Avery. I'm looking for Avery US letter. Letter is the 8.5 by 11, right? So it's the standard size, 8.5 by 11 is a letter. When I choose the Avery US letter, when I click on one of these, if I type the number 5, it should jump down. Oops, yeah. So Avery, there it is, US letter. I'm gonna type the number 5. 5160 and 5660 are the ones that I've seen most often for mailing labels. So it's going to be on the box, right? The product number will be on the box. Doing 5160. I'm going to click OK. And it doesn't seem like anything's changed. There's a couple of little visual clues here. I have a little plus sign here. And up in the ribbon, I now have table tools. Do you see them? So what's happening? Well, labels are going to go into tables. And the very first time you make them, you're not going to see the grid lines. If you see yours already, it's because you've done this before. Since this computer has not done labels before, it comes up completely blank. So what we need to do is go to the Table Tools tab, to the Layout options, and the second button says View Grid Lines. And when I turn that on, I will see where all the labels are going to go. Okay. Now, this number 5160 has 30 labels per sheet, per page. So there's 3 across by 10 down. You can count them if you want to. But I do not have to set up all 30 of them. I only have to set up the first one. And what goes on a mailing label? First name, last name, address, city, state, and zip. All right, so all I need is my address block. So I'm going to come back to my mailings. Why is address block grayed out? Well, whose addresses are you going to use, right? Coming back here, I started my mail merge, but that's where I stopped. The second step, or the next important step, is to get your recipient list, right? Who are these going to be filled in with? So I'm using an existing list. I'm going back to where my exercise files are. Again, I'm picking on my Excel customers in sheet 1. And now a whole bunch of things have lit up. This next record tells it to go down to the next row, the next row, the next line, the next recipient. So we don't worry about that. Again, we only need to worry about the first one. And the first one is going to be the address block, right? So clicking on my address block. It looks good to me. I'm going to click OK. And all I see is address block, right? So let's preview it. If I finish and merge, I will get 76 pages that look exactly like this. Okay, so here's the catch with labels. When you're working with labels, you have to tell it to update the labels. If you're going through the wizard will have a big button that says the same thing, update labels. This is why the preview is so important, so I can see what's happening. So whether the preview is on or not, we need to update the labels. So I've turned my preview back off. So I just see next record, next record. I'm going to push the update labels button, and you'll see that address block appear in each one of these. All right, preview off and on if you need to. How pretty is that? Now again, there's over 70 people on my list, but I'm only seeing one page of them. And if I have less than 30 or 30 or less, I could just print this, okay? But if I want to see all of them, I'm going to need to finish this, right? So I need to finish. I can edit the individual documents for all of them. And now notice up here, it doesn't say letter anymore. Now it says labels, okay? And I have 3 pages. So if I move down to the next page and the next page, what do you think? All right, let's do that whole thing again. I'm going to exit Word. I'm not going to save anything. Exit, don't save, exit, don't save. And let's try it again. Same thing. Word. I want mailing labels. So mailings, start merge, labels. One Mississippi, two Mississippi. It should remember what you last chose. If it's been a while since you've done one, double check the product number on the box. Okay? Because I turned the grid lines on last time, it remembers that as well, and it should remember it until they're turned off. Again, those lines don't print, they're just there for us to see where they are. The next thing to do is to put in their address block. I can't do that until I have selected my recipients, right? So step one, tell it label. Step two, right next to it, use an existing list. Go find that Excel file. Put in your address block. I always like to preview before I finish and merge. What did I forget? Update labels, right? So if I update labels, it should whoosh, fill them all in for me. Now it only fills in the first 30 of them. If I go next, 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 notice here, Bobby, Butch, Kathy, all it's doing is moving the first one over. It doesn't matter what one you're previewing when you're on. When you finish and merge, it will go back to the first one. All right, so finish and merge, edit the individual documents, even though it's going to be labels now. When I say okay, there they are. Excellent. So which of these two files should I save? Well, I could save this one so I knew who I sent them to. But if it's not complete yet, if I haven't actually printed this yet, I probably wouldn't save it because I want to regenerate them next time. I wouldn't want to, if I'm using them, I might save it as December 7th labels. But if I'm not going to print it out until next week, I might wait so that when I update my data, I could rerun it. So since this is all make-believe, I'm not going to save it. The same idea with here. If I'm still going to use this again to remerge, I would save it. But since it was a one-time thing, I'm not going to save it. Okay. I want you to see a directory, all right? And I want you to see an envelope. I've only got 10 minutes left. So I'm going to do an envelope quickly, and you're welcome to follow along if you want to, but I'm going to throw it away when I'm done. I'm going to say Word, new document, mailings, start merge for envelopes. It starts out just like it did with a label, right? We don't do this one envelope because that's just to do one. We're doing a mail merge envelope. Size 10 is the standard fold in 3 stuff. Okay. Let me zoom out a little bit. And it changes the size of my paper. Do you see that? I'm up here where my return address would go. Now, it might have been a while. I know we don't do a whole lot with the actual post office anymore, but if I was going to put my who this is to, I'd put it somewhere about here, right? So if you move your mouse down here and you move a little more than halfway down, a little about in the middle, and click, you'll see there's actually already a built-in box for you. You just got to get in the right spot before you can see it. And from here, I want my address block. So I have to select my recipients. Then I can push my address block. I preview to see it, and I can move through the records and see how they look. And when I'm ready, I finish and merge so that I can be able to see one envelope per person. And we tend not to use these as often because the laser printers tend to seal them when you feed them through. But you never know when you might be out of mailing labels, but find a box of envelopes. All right, I'm going to close and not save this. Okay, make sure view back to the page width. And I'm going to exit out and not save. Basic envelopes. All right, just like the labels, you choose the product number. When you're ready, merge it. Let's look at a directory. Okay. This is one of my favorites because I work a lot with data. So I do a lot of Excel and Access stuff. So being able to pull something out of a spreadsheet into a neater format, this is awesome for that. Let's go into Word. Into a new blank document. Setting up my mailing to be a directory. All right, so start mail merge directory, select recipients. I'm going to use an existing list. Again, I'm going to go find that Excel file on the desktop, those Excel customers. Everything's there on sheet 1. Okay. So I opened a new Word document. I started to mail merge as a directory. I selected my Excel customers. Now, if I wanted to do columns of people's names and addresses, I would do the address block and set this up to be columns. But what I want is I'm going to see their last name, comma, space, first name, and then I want a bunch of dots and their balance. That's what I want, and I want a list for all of them. So this is going to be custom building them. So here in my blank document, insert merge field, last name, comma, space, first name, tab, account balance. And if I preview, I can see what this looks like. Adam Zanny owes me $253. Let me finish and merge. I'm going to edit the individual documents, all of it. So here's the catch with the directory, right? When I did the letter and I did the envelope, it automatically, when it reaches the end, starts the next page, starts the next page. With labels, it gave me that next record, next record, next record. With directories, there's no break. There's no next page. There's no next record. It just whoosh, throws it all together. So I should have pressed enter after I put in the balance. Let me throw this directory away. No, or again, look at the title bar. This is my directory. Coming back to my document, after my balance, I need to press the enter key and then finish and merge again. Good, except my, right, guys all over the place, my numbers here. So this looks awful too. Let me close it. Closing the directory, not the document. Not saving the directory. Coming back up to the name, whether you've got your preview on or not, right? Coming back up here where the name and balance is. So I'm on that line. I'm going to right click and open the paragraph window. Why paragraph, Pandora? Because I want to come to tabs, okay? So I came back up to that line with the name and addresses. I right clicked and I'm opening up my paragraph and coming into tabs. And what we're going to do is at 4, so I'm typing in the number 4, we're going to put a tab stop. And to get it to fill in with that dot, 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 that's this number 2. It's called a dot leader. So I'm typing in the number 4 so that at 4 inches over, if I hit the set, you'll see, right, 4 with the little inch mark, using the dot leader. And when I click OK, it looks like that. Hopefully. And when I finish and merge, edit individual documents. Okay. Awesome. We're getting there. Uh-oh. We sent letters to Jill and Kevin, and they don't owe us money. In fact, we owe Kevin money. We're not ready to remind him of that. So let me close this. I'm not going to save it. I could go back to the worksheet and I could delete them, but if I want to keep them in here just in case, we can tell Microsoft Word not to bring them in. All right, so I'm back here in my directory. This could be words, this could be labels, documents, right, whichever we're on. And I'm going to come back to this edit recipient list, right? The edit recipient list next to where we selected them. And I can find Jill Jones and Kevin Kent. And I'm just going to uncheck those two boxes. Again, I could have done find recipient, find Jill, find Kevin. All right, but I'm turning off Jill and Kevin, just excluding those two recipients. Okay. When I click OK and I finish and merge, this will now only show me the people who owe me money. Actually, I think it would be nice if this was in order by how much they owed me. Let's close this, and I'm not going to save it. Here in the document, right, in the document where I see the codes, I'm coming back into Edit Recipient List, and there is a sort option here. I could choose the sort from up here too, but I'm going to come to this sort option. I'm going to tell it to sort by balance and click OK and OK. And when I finish and merge, now I see the lowest values. You want a $sign to appear in front of each one of these. We close, don't save, add the $sign, and then remerge. And it pulls together all of the values for us. How cool is that? All right, I'm gonna exit Microsoft Word. I'm not gonna save it. All right, there are lots of things that you can do with Mail Merge. It's a really amazing tool. I hope you get a chance to play with it. I hope you come back and see more. So in the next class, I'm going to teach you how to do an email from Word, and I'm going to take you through how to format it so that you don't have to do it by yourself. So for example, that $sign that I had to keep typing in, there is a way to make Word force that. There is a way to force it to be all uppercase or lowercase or have 2 decimal places, change the date format. Those are possible. They're called switches. And we'll talk about that in Mail Merge too. I put a copy of the evaluation link in the comments. If you have a chance to fill it out, that would be awesome. If not, don't worry about it. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you learn lots and retain most, and that you will come back and see me again.